Week 16, there's no crying in fantasy. We are back. Sean, what is going on? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good in the second round of the playoffs in two of my leagues, two out of three leagues. The third league I didn't make the playoffs by 1 point, but that's okay. Uh, I moved into a new house, so yeah, I'm in my bathroom for how weird that sounds.
This is
I don't know.
dedication. This is dedication right here.
Dedication. I mean, it's nice and quiet in here. Got good little chairs. I got a nice setup right here. Not gonna lie.
Sounds good. Well, I am out of 4 leagues, lost in 4 leagues last week. I'm moving on in two. So I'm just hoping that everything works out this week. It's been a rough stretch. It's like everything that we thought was going to happen, like stuff just isn't working the way that it was supposed to work. And last week was a brutal week for injuries. Just so many players out or got banged up. Your boy Olave was out. It was a tough stretch for all those managers that thought that Olave might play, me being included in that. And then you had the Saturday games on top of that. So it's like you were down to bare resources if you thought that Olave was playing.
Yeah, and I feel like we made some really good picks last week, and I thought there were no brainers, honestly, but apparently not. I mean, it was a weird leak last week for sure. I know I
I
got a
had
couple
some
of
solid
wrong.
ones, other than Sam Howell. Sam Howell was my worst pick.
Right, right. But let's get into it. If you're in your second round of the playoffs, congratulations. But
Congratulations.
congratulations. We're going to get into it. We're going to help you with round number two here. Start and sits. We're going to roll them up again. Who's your starts? Rapid fire. Let's do this.
All right, so we're going to start at quarterback. I'm going with Justin Fields this week, going against Arizona. I just like the matchup. I think, you know, Fields, although he's been shaky in some games, I think he's been steady enough to win you a week. And I think this is a matchup that, with Justin Fields going against Arizona, the Arizona defense is not great. They should be competitive in this game. I'm expecting a fairly good game from Justin Fields. And what you're looking for right now is a quarterback that can be productive in the air and on the ground, and that's Justin Fields. I think this is a week where if you were a little bit shaky, you were a little less confident, he can get you through this week going against a bottom tier defense, a team that is tanking, that is playing for next year, and slightly going up against an offense that could be in the game as of late. They could make the game competitive. So I think you're going to see a good back and forth between both offenses. Just Arizona's defense is terrible. So I like Justin Fields this week. Running back, I'm going with Brees Hall going against Washington. I think this is a bounce back game for Brees. Um, what people have to realize is they went against Miami, a hungry Miami team, coming off that loss against Tennessee. They had a point to prove. It was going to be a bad game all around for the Jets. Now I know I said sit Tua last week, and that was my quarterback picks were bad last week, but
Yeah.
Jets just didn't show up last week. I think that this is a bounce back game for Brees and that offense going against Washington, and I think he's going to be productive. He's one of those backs where he's going to be productive on the ground, maybe, depending on the offensive line, but he can get you points in the air. So if you're looking for double-digit points, I think this is the week for Brees. Washington is, eighth worst against the run.
They're
Um,
horrible.
yeah,
They're
the
horrible.
defense is just completely horrible. You saw what Kyron Williams did to them last week. Like, put Brees in your lineup if you have him. I think this is a week where he can get you to the next round. Um, For wide receiver, this is kind of a sneaky play, but I like what I saw last week. And he's also had either 7 targets or more, and I think 3 out of the 4 last weeks. That's JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Mm.
I think with Gino coming back, don't get me wrong here. They are going against – who are they going against this week? Going against Tennessee.
Ooh.
Ranked defense. I think they are fifth worst against the pass. There should be a lot of yards to be had in that game. Seattle seems to be kind of trending upwards as far as the offense from what I saw last week. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but that last drive, and it's Jackson Smith and Jigba is more involved in that offense in the second half of the season, and he seems to be a target that they are kind of locked in on, and kind of fading away from Tyler Lockett now. That seems to play. That seems to be the play. Like, they're fading away from Tyler Lockett.
They beat you Eagles, bro.
I know it was. We beat ourselves. It was a tough game to watch, but from what I saw with Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he could have a big game going against Tennessee. This is just a spot where I think if you have a flex play, or if you are kind of like on the mend of like who to put into your lineup from a wide receiver perspective, JSN is a play that I think you can play this week and be successful. I'll get to the question in just 1 second, right after we finish these picks. But tight end, I'm going with Njoku. Njoku has had 20 plus or more points over the last 2 weeks. Seems to be one of Joe Flacco's favorite targets. I think going against Houston seems to be kind of reeling right now with Stroud not playing. I don't think Will Anderson is playing this week. There's a possibility. So I think this is a week where you can see them exploit that matchup going against Houston. Going against Houston. And Njoku is my play this week. Maybe not 20 plus points, but I could see 5 or more targets. And probably double-digit points as well in this game.
I like that play. Yeah,
he's like almost a wide receiver 2 in that offense right now. There's nobody else other than Amari Cooper that they are targeting. So go for it.
Like you said, Joe Flacco likes him a lot. He targets the tight end a lot.
Yeah, Flacco targets the tight end, and that's one thing that we didn't see Deshaun Watson or PJ Tucker or DTR do. Like, they don't target tight ends. It's just not in their progression, like not in their reads. Joe Flacco is a veteran quarterback. He's going to utilize all assets of the game to make sure that they're competitive. If that means using the tight end and the defense is not covering the tight end, he's going to expose that. So I think they found something between that connection between Flacco and Njoku, as well as with Amari Cooper as well. I like Amari Cooper this week as well.
I do too.
Because Flacco's getting him the ball. He's putting it where Amari Cooper can get it, and they just seem to have a connection. So I'm going with the players that I think Flacco is targeting, and that's Njoku and Cooper. Njoku is my start of the week for tight end. And then for defense, going with Kansas City. Going against Vegas, I know Vegas put up 63 on the Chargers last week. They were like 25 to like 30 points, depending on what league you were in for defense. They were going against the Chargers. The Chargers kind of gave up. They gave up on their coach. Kansas City, I think they are going to be in Kansas City. Kansas City is going to be a tough match this week. I don't see as much success going against that Kansas City defense as they had going against the Chargers. So I'm firing up Kansas City. Just looking at the matchups for this week, I think this is one of the best matchups that you can exploit. So if you have Kansas City, throw them in your lineup.
Yeah, and I think I know they played the Patriots last week, but I thought it was a solid bounce-back win for the Chiefs. They could have easily lost that game because, the Patriots have a really good defense, and you saw what they did against Pittsburgh offensively. You thought that could have been an upset against the Chiefs, and Chiefs didn't, put out a decent enough fantasy production. But, I like that matchup a lot for sure because, the Raiders, they're probably going to come up in there hot after they beat down the Chargers. I think the Chiefs defense is a good play.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs. So we got a question from one of the Facebook users. It's 49ers defense or Broncos defense. I'll let you go first.
What's the matchups? Who the 49ers are playing again?
Going against Baltimore. Broncos are going against New England.
Oh, Broncos.
I like the Broncos too.
Yeah.
Broncos are a lock. 49ers defense, I know they've been a consistent defense and especially better in the second half of the season. But this is a tough matchup. This is
It
an
is.
extremely tough matchup going against Baltimore. And I'm not confident in most of the starters in this game just because of the two defenses that are playing. Like, you don't know if one defense is going to get the upper. I mean, one offense is going to get the upper hand. You saw Baltimore have some success against Jacksonville last week. I know the 49ers are a tougher matchup, but just with Lamar, it's kind of hard to predict. So if you have 49ers and you have Broncos on your bench, I'm going with the Broncos going against New England. New England is obviously a team that is reeling right now. They're looking for draft position. I think Belichick is on his way out. You could possibly see them in the market for a quarterback in the draft as well. So I like the Broncos. I think the Broncos are the better play going against a horrible offense right now and a team that just is not really playing for anything.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some turnovers opportunity for Denver. I think, if you look at who would get the more turnovers, 49ers defense versus Baltimore or Broncos versus New England. If I had to put my betting money on it, it's the Broncos. So, I mean, I think the Broncos for sure will have a better fantasy output defensively than the 49ers for sure. And then who's your quarterback pick again? Justin Fields?
Yeah, Justin Fields this week.
I knew you were gonna go with him after talking about it in the chat. I like that. I like that start a lot. I think Arizona struggles against rushing quarterbacks like Justin Fields, so you could see a couple of touchdowns, probably mainly rushing from Justin. But I think Justin's a very good play for sure.
Yeah.
And Njoku, I like that start as well a lot. I almost picked him actually. Like you just said, Joe Flacco, he's been targeting the tight end, and like you said, he goes to his reads. Honestly, I feel like Amari Cooper, like you were talking about, has been better fantasy wise than out the entire season, in my opinion, even with Deshaun Watson. And I think
He
he's
has
been
a
better with
quarterback
Joe.
that can read the field and make progressions. Like it makes
Yeah,
it makes a difference.
Yeah, like you said, Joe's a veteran, so like he knows how to target his best players. You know what I'm saying? So like he knows, I need to get my best wide receiver the ball. I need to get, Njoku, basically their second best wide receiver, honestly, the ball. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I like Njoku a lot.
And
So
Flacco, I'll just say this before you go into your starts. Flacco is honestly one of my sleepers for this week. I just didn't put him in my starts.
really,
Like,
really,
so I'll put it like this: I have Trevor Lawrence in both of the leagues that I'm moving on in, and I don't know if he's playing this week because he didn't practice the last 2 days. So we'll see if he practices tomorrow. But if he's out, I have Flacco. I pick Flacco up because he's going against Houston, and I know Houston has been pretty good as a defense, but I just like the ability of Flacco to get the ball to his receivers. Utilize the run game, utilize both backs in the pass game as well to some degree. They're not heavily involved, but they can get involved. I just think Flacco has the ability to put up nice numbers. I think he's thrown for over 300 yards over the last 2 weeks too, with multiple TDs. So I see if Trevor Lawrence is out, that's my best option. That's my best go-to. It was either between him or Nick Mullins. I like the Flacco play a little bit better than Nick Mullins.
For sure. And I agree with that. And not to mention, Houston's going through a whole bunch of injuries offensively and defensively. So, like, they're kind of a broken team in a sense.
Yep.
So, yeah, Joe Flacco for sure is a sneaky sleeper play for sure. We'll keep tabs on that. So, let me get into my starts. It's going to be really quick. My quarterback – Baker Mayfield, that's the dude right there. He was on the waiver wire in one of my leagues. I have Mahomes.
How?
I'm starting him over Mahomes. I don't know how he was still there. I
How?
got him for $0 too.
That's
$0.
crazy.
Going against Jacksonville, we all know what quarterbacks do to the Jacksonville defense. They put up good fantasy numbers. Baker's on fire. I expect a over 20 points this game. I'm hoping more because I'm starting them over Mahomes. It's just because Mahomes, I just feel like you're going to get 15 to 17 points. You already know what he's going to make.
Talk to me through this. Talk to me through this
You know?
decision between Baker and Mahomes.
Well, it's just like Baker's on fire. He's got the hot hand. I know I did this earlier in the year with Minshew, but the thing is, I was wrong on Minshew. Baker's the better quarterback. He's been more consistent. I wasn't wrong about Mahomes not performing as well fantasy-wise that week, though. So I got that right. I just didn't get the Minshew part starting right. I'm not saying Mahomes is going to have a bad game. It just no matter what, he's only going to get 15 to 17 points. That offense he plays in just doesn't produce much fantasy production. And look, Baker's been on fire. I mean, he had 29 fantasy points last week. I think like 20-something the week before that. You're going up against a good matchup in Jacksonville. You know the Bucs are battling for playoff position. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going with Baker. And now hopefully it helps me win my league because I feel like some of my league mates are slipping in that league. Because, and I'll get into this is going to be my wide receiver start. I already told you. But I'll get into that a little bit there because he's a guy I picked up on the waiver wire last week. But I'm going to go with my running back first, Chuba Hubbard versus the Packers.
I was going to pick him.
Yeah, I was trying to shoot for guys that, like, that I haven't chose before a little bit. So, like, I like Chuba Hubbard. He had 12 fantasy points last week. Another guy on the Panthers offense that I have on my sit will have a direct effect to Hubbard as far as getting the volume because I think the Packers are weak against the run, good against the pass for most part. So I think Hubbard is going to have a lot of volume, and I think he's going to make a couple big plays. I hopefully he gets a touchdown to back that up, but I think he'll have a couple big plays in that game.
I think
Carolina's coming off a win,
Yeah, he's been over double-digit points, I think, the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. Miles Sanders been non-existent, you know what I'm saying? So he's my start for running back. Wide receiver, I already said this in the chat. Josh Palmer, man. He came in clutch last week for me. He had 16 fantasy points. I think he even got more, actually. I think he got more than 16.
I don't think he had that much last week.
It was either 16 or more.
I'll tell you, 1 second. Palmer had, oh, you're right, 21.
21 points.
Yeah,
I mean, the Chargers got blown out, but as you see with Keenan Allen out, he's the number one target. And honestly, that feels like the only wide receiver Easton Stick's really comfortable with throwing big bombs to Palmer. Quentin Johnson hasn't really got his feet settled at all this year. You can't put any faith in him. So, I mean, at the very least, yeah, the Chargers might get blown out, but at the very least, like Palmer is going to get all the volume there. It's kind of like Adam Thielen early in the year for the Panthers. He's going to get all the volume,
You have faith in Palmer going up against that Buffalo defense, though?
I do. I know Buffalo's been hot, but the thing is, Buffalo's defense is predicated on the pass rush. Secondary, they're still down Tre'Davious White like all year, so like, their secondary is probably their weak point, even though they look great against the Cowboys. They just generated some really good pass rush against a really good offensive line. The Chargers fired their head coach Stanley, so Staley, not Stanley, but we see what teams can do when they fire their head coach and you put in the interim. Might spark something in the Chargers. Maybe they'll block a little better. Hold that pass rush. If they can contain the pass rush, I mean, I could see Easton Stick throwing over at least 250, at least over 250. Yeah, okay. Easton Stick, he could sling it. Now he made two dumb turnovers. Like I think he threw 2 pick sixes, if I'm not mistaken. But he's gonna give Josh Palmer the ball. So I like Josh Palmer versus the Bills. Even though the Bills are hot, I just like Josh Palmer. Is it at Bills?
I believe the Chargers are at home.
Okay, good.
Chargers are home.
Okay, good. So I almost just regretted that pick because if it was at Bills, it could be snowing. Not the case here. So we're good. We're in the clear on that. So Josh Palmer, tight end. Now I chose this dude to sit last week, and he totally proved me wrong. Trey McBride, he had a great game against the 49ers, a defense that does pretty well against tight ends. I thought that was a bad matchup. Um, Honestly, I chose a lot of Cardinals last week. They all did pretty well.
Yeah,
So I chose a lot of the Cardinals to sit. They're going against the Bears. Okay defense, not bad.
they've been
I
better.
wouldn't. They've been better. I wouldn't say they're as good as the 49ers. So I think you know Trey McBride seems to have the liking of Kyler Murray. Those two have a good solid connection. So I like Trey McBride a lot versus the Bears. He had 20 fantasy points last game against the 49ers. Uh,
Yep.
I definitely expect double digits at the very least. I'm thinking 15 points is his over under line, and I would choose the over, but by not much. I think it's right on par, about 15. That's just a guesstimate. I'm just guessing there, but that's what I would put the over under line at is at 15. And I like Trey McBride at tight end start of the week. Defense. I like the Bills versus the Chargers. Obviously, you know, I know I just mentioned that teams who fire their head coach seems like they always spark up the next week, but I don't think that's going to be the case for the Chargers. Hopefully, they just give all the fantasy production to Josh Palmer and it's just suck for everybody else, so the Bills can have a good fantasy outcome defensively. I think they're going to get a lot of turnovers. I think they're going to get about 3 turnovers, 2 to 3. I mean, Easton Stick, I mean, backup quarterback, he might get benched, depending how it goes. I don't even know who their backup is to Easton Stick is.
I
Um,
don't know. I have no clue who the backup is.
Me either. So that's why I like the Bills defense a lot. I mean, I think I think that game's gonna be over pretty quick. Um, might be over after the first quarter. So yeah, those are my starts right there. Man, if you got Baker sitting on that waiver wire, man, go pick him up. If
Yeah,
you have a mid tier fantasy quarterback, go pick up Baker this week for sure.
I was looking for Baker, but he wasn't out there in both of my leagues.
Which is, I mean, well, it's not surprising that he's not there. It was just surprising that he was still there for me. I guess some people just don't get active once they lose in the playoffs, and it's only those couple of teams that's still in it looking at waiver wires. So
Well,
uh,
in our leagues, we lock the league. So if you're out, we lock your team. You're done.
really,
Yeah,
wow. I wonder if that's the same with my league. I'm not too sure on that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, those are my starts. Any
Okay.
comments on those starts?
No, I like most of them. Yeah, the Bills I definitely like. Palmer I do like because I think they're going to be chasing points, so there could be some easy targets coming his way. Just him being pretty much that number one in that offense. McBride I like going against the Bears. Like you said, the Bears have been a little bit better, but there's going to be volume to be had in that offense. So I think McBride is a good pick as well, and he seems to be kind of one of Kyler's favorite targets outside of Marquise Brown. So I say that's a good pick. Um, for my sits, my quarterback sit is Lamar Jackson, going against San Fran. And I know we said, yeah, don't play San Fran this week, but there's other ways for that Baltimore offense to score, and it's on the ground. I know they lost Keaton Mitchell, but Gus Edwards is still there. Um, Lamar is going to have to be efficient running the ball, and I think that they're going to be accounting for him running the ball in this game. They're going to force him to pass.
Right.
So if he's not getting those points and as touchdowns through the air, if he's not getting the ball to Isaiah Likely or Odell, it could be a rough game if you have Lamar as your starting quarterback. And honestly, over the last couple of weeks, he's barely cracked 20 points. It's been pretty rough. I think he had like one really good game out of like the last 3 or 4 weeks, but
I didn't even
um,
know that.
Yeah, Lamar has been like kind of average this season. Like he's been okay, but like going against this defense does not give me confidence in me playing Lamar. If you have him, I'm sure that you pretty much have to play him because there's not a lot of people out there on the wire for you. But
would you start Baker over him?
I would.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
would.
saying. Yeah,
I look at okay, so I factor this in. I look at the matchup. They're going against the 49ers. It's just a tough defense. It's a tough game. This is going to be a grind out game. Baker is going against Jacksonville, which is a much easier defense to pass on. The second part of that is when you factor in Baker's weapons, Evans, Godwin, and Rashad White, along with Cade Otton. I just like Baker a little bit more than I like Lamar this week. So I probably would play Baker over Lamar.
there you go. Start Baker. That's the key here. Start Baker.
Running back Austin Eckler. I do
Ooh,
not like Austin. It's been rough. It's been rough for Austin. I think he
I
had
know.
seven points last week. They're going against the Bills. Like you said, the Bills front seven has been pretty good this whole season. So I don't like the matchup for Austin Eckler, and just from what I've seen in that offense, he just has not looked good. He hasn't been a consistent player for you, so I don't see why, if you have other options or better matchups, that you would play Austin Eckler. Like for me, it's come down to, do you play Austin Eckler or do you play Jerome Ford? I'm going with Jerome Ford.
Really?
Yep.
Because I have Austin Eckler, and I just feel like I have to start him because I really have no other options. I mean, do I start Javonte Williams over Austin Eckler? Because that would be my other option there.
I don't like Javonte Williams either.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I got Kenneth Walker. I'm starting him for sure, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's either Austin Eckler or it's Javonte out of those two. And I'm like, man, this sucks. This might be the week I lose. But
Yeah, if it's between Javonte and Eckler, I'm going with Eckler. But
really,
let's look at the last 4 weeks for Eckler. 9 points, 4 points, 21 points against Denver, and then 7 points against Las Vegas. So that's 3 out of the last 4 weeks with single digits. He has not cracked double digits.
And that 21-point game was mostly receptions too.
Receptions, trailing. Like it's a tough matchup. And just his usage, and I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's like he's kind of shutting it down, trying to play for that next contract, or what's going on, because he's not going to be in he's not going to be in Los Angeles next year. That's for sure. So I don't have any confidence playing for the championship, like trying to get into the championship with Austin Eckler in my lineup.
Yeah, the struggle is real there, man. I hope he makes it through. Just give me at least 10 points. Just give me 10 points. I'll be happy.
It's possible, but I find it hard this week. My wide receiver sit is Brandon Ayuk. Like I said, going against Baltimore. Going against Baltimore. Tough defense. I think they are number 1 ranked against quarterbacks and against the pass. This is a matchup where I don't want to play anybody, really. Like, I know you have to. Like, if you have Debo, I think Debo is probably the best play this week.
He's been better. He's been the better wide receiver lately.
Yeah. Debo's definitely been the better receiver over the last couple of weeks. Purdy just has kind of struggled passing to the outside over the last couple of weeks. It's been McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle. Though that's been his targets. So I think Ayuk is the odd man out, and going against this defense, I think they're going to make it hard on Purdy. So I don't really see Ayuk being that successful in this game. And like I said, you're playing for the fantasy championship. If you have better matchups out there, if you have better players, go for it. Ayuk has kind of been on the downturn over the last couple of weeks. He started out really hot. He was scoring touchdowns. He was Purdy's favorite receiver. It just seems like over the last couple of weeks, they have kind of condensed the offense to over the middle, getting the ball to Debo, getting the ball to Kittle, getting the ball to McCaffrey. And that limits Ayuk's opportunities, especially when you have McCaffrey scoring 2 touchdowns a game almost. And, Debo being the number one target. So I'm a little hesitant to play Ayuk this week. Tight end, Dalton Schultz. Don't like the matchup going against Cleveland. Quarterback situation, I know Case Keenum was pretty good last week, but I don't see Dalton Schultz being that successful this week. It's a tough matchup. I know you probably don't have other options out there at tight end, but this is right. This is just a tough situation right here. I have him as a sit. And then last is Pittsburgh for my defense. Pittsburgh has really let me down over the last couple of weeks. I thought that they were going to be better. They had a lot of turnovers, a lot of sacks in the beginning of the season. Cincinnati is a sneaky play. I know Jamar is not playing this week, but it's a division game. Jake Browning has been a little bit better than expected. T. Higgins is coming on at the end of the season. And Pittsburgh secondary has just been trash. They just have not been living up to that Steel Curtain motto. I think over the last couple of weeks, they have had probably single digits. So out of 4 out of the last 5 weeks, they've had single digits. 7, 10, 2, 4, and 4. And those were going against pretty mediocre defenses. Pretty mediocre offenses. You had Cleveland with their quarterback situation not working out. That was before Flacco got in. Cincinnati, that's when when Burrow went out. I think he went out that game. Arizona, New England, and then Indy. And they can't put up anywhere close to 8 to 10 points a game. I don't want anything to do with them in this game. It just seems like Pittsburgh has just kind of lost their mojo. And that's coming from the beginning of the season where they were putting up 26, 11, 18, 10. Now it's just they just can't get home to the quarterback. TJ Watt has not been as efficient, and the secondary is just not been good.
And honestly, I think it kind of correlates to what they're doing offensively. And they've been so bad offensively. Defense probably been on the field much longer than they have to be. So, and Jake Browning, man, he's been on fire lately. Another guy, a sleeper guy that maybe, if you're in Dynasty, maybe pick him up because he might be the tight end of the future for the Bengals. Tanner Hudson, he might be the tight end in the future for the Bengals. So I picked him up in my Dynasty league. He's been averaging, 9 to 12 points a game, the last few weeks since Browning took over. So he had a little production with Burrow before he went down just a little bit. But, Jake Browning, if he beats Pittsburgh and maybe wins the rest of the year, I don't know. He might be a guy to pick up if he's on your waiver wire after this week if he has a good game and you're heading to the championship game and your quarterback situation is iffy. So I wouldn't trust Pittsburgh at all. Just not a great game, just not a great matchup. And then I agree with the Dalton Schultz. I had the same guy, same sit. He's my sit for tight end as well. Bad matchup going against the Browns, backup quarterback most likely. Seems like the Texans are pretty much done for the season after all these injuries. I definitely think Schultz is trending downward. So, but you never know. Keenum might, if he starts or Mills or whatever, they might find some magic with Dalton, but I just don't see it. The Browns are just too good of a defense.
It's too risky. I would rather start Tanner Hudson over Dalton Schultz this week.
Me too, for sure. Tanner Hudson, it's a sleeper play. Tanner Hudson, for sure. Go pick him up. You need tight end. Him and Tucker Kraft. I think dynasty wise, if you're maybe looking for a tight end in the future, sneaky grab, put him on the bench. Just handcuff him. Because I don't know if Luke Musgrave's going to be anything for the Packers, if Tucker Kraft's, doing what Luke Musgrave's supposed to do. But yeah, Tanner Hudson, Tucker Kraft is the two tight ends to watch. But my sits here, so quarterback, Jordan Love versus Carolina. You seen it all year. Carolina shutting down quarterbacks all year. Surprisingly, that's their best unit of the entire team. So, you see Jordan Love struggle against who they play last week?
Uh, Geez, who did they play last week?
Miami. No.
Miami,
I'm
they play
tripping.
Miami. I
No, they
want to.
didn't play Miami.
It wasn't the Giants. Tampa.
Yeah, I mean,
He did all right. He did okay. 21 points last week. But this is definitely a worse matchup for him and
well,
on the road.
yeah, I kind of go back to that Giants game. He kind of struggled against the Giants game. I think it might be a similar game. Carolina's secondary could get the best of him, and honestly, Carolina might win the game, get their third win of the season, which I don't know why. Well, they don't even have a first
They
round
don't have a
pick,
pick.
so
It would just be to screw Chicago over.
yeah, exactly. Uh, Running back wise, Tony Pollard versus Miami. Miami, one of the
Ooh,
better.
I don't agree with this one.
Well, did Derrick Henry have a good game against Miami 2 weeks ago?
I think he had 20-something points.
Hmm. Well, I guess it just depends what Miami does offensively and how much of a point difference, because it's going to be, because it's at Miami. You already seen what the Dallas Cowboys did against the Bills at Buffalo. Um, so I mean, this could be a game where Miami could get ahead if Tyreek's playing, if he's healthy playing, which he will play. I don't know if he's going to be 100% healthy. And Tony Pollard might not get much on the ground. The Cowboys might have to play from behind if they're not, um, if they're not prepared like
I
they
think
were
that's
against
what
the
helps him.
Bills.
I think that's what helps him.
But maybe I don't know, because you know I don't know. I just like the matchup. I like the matchup.
All right, let me ask you a question. I just had this conversation with somebody maybe about an hour or so ago. Would you play Saquon or would you play Tony Pollard?
Who does Saquon play again?
Philly.
Saquon kind of let me down against the Saints, because I thought he was going to be a good play. Um, I don't know. I might have to go Saquon.
Ooh, okay. See, I picked Pollard. I said play Pollard.
I
And,
think it's
and
a toss up.
the reason why is because I like the matchup is tough. Don't get me wrong, but playing against that Miami offense, and if Dallas is playing from behind, I think it's going to be a competitive game. If they are chasing points, they're going to be passing, and they're going to be passing to everybody involved in the offense, which means Tony Pollard is going to be involved as well. So I think it's a good matchup for Pollard because I think the floor is so high. I think his floor is higher than Saquon this week. Potentially get into the end zone. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get volume. It's a high quality play to me rather than playing Saquon going against Philly, who's coming off of 3 straight losses. Defense has something to prove. That front line is probably, I think, one of the best ranked defenses against the rush. So that's why I picked Pollard. So I see your argument because Miami has been tough against the run, but as of late, they just haven't been that great of a defense against the run. And like I said, Derrick Henry had 20-some points just a couple of weeks ago.
I think I'm banking on more of the Cowboys as a team struggling on the road. I think I'm banking on more of that because, I think Pollard had like single digit games the past 2 weeks. I know for sure last week he had a single digit game fantasy wise. So is he going to have another single digit? Maybe not, but I don't think he gets more than 14 points. And I would choose the under on that. I would choose the under. Um, I just think Miami's the better team. If Tyreek's playing, I think it could be a game where the Cowboys might get blown out again. You seen the Cowboys try to come back last week and it didn't work out. So that argument like Josh Palmer, he's gonna rack up a bunch of points in garbage time, but he's more of a wide receiver. If I'm gonna put garbage time points on anybody, it would be CD Lamb,
Yeah, I agree.
Brandon Cooks. because they're going to be wanting chunk plays if they're trailing behind. I mean, I don't know. They would have to put Pollard more into space so he can make a play happen. You know, he would be Dak's last resort weapon this week versus Miami, and Hill's taking receipts.
He's taking notes.
He's going to keep the tabs on that one for sure. Tony Pollard, I would say he's got to be one of the bigger busts this year in fantasy.
Wow.
No,
Bust?
I mean, we were kind of expecting him to be a top 5 running back. Is he even top 20?
I wasn't expecting him to be a top 5 running back.
I kind of was, no more Zeke. I know I said early in the year, losing Zeke kind of affects Pollard, but, I thought Pollard could handle it. I guess not,
All right, so here's Pollard's numbers from week 11 up to last week. 18 points, 22 points, 17 points, 16 points. Last week going against Buffalo, which was a bad week, 7 points. Okay. One single digit game over the last 5 weeks. I'm taking the up on this one, him coming back. Like I said,
at Miami though, at Miami,
it is at Miami, but
decent defense.
What gives you pause about going to Miami? It's not Buffalo.
It's not Buffalo, but considering the Cowboys, struggle against Arizona in Arizona, so I mean, like that can't be a hostile environment, and they lost there, So I mean,
it was also the beginning of the season. Miami's not a tough place to play. There's probably going to be more Cowboys fans in that building than there's going to be Miami fans.
Oh, you think?
If they went to Miami in like September or October and they were on that sideline in that heat, yeah, I could say, okay, yeah, it's a bit of a tough game. It's December. It's like 60 degrees outside. Like, it's not a tough matchup on the road for them.
What if it's a shootout? Do you think Pollard would get his points in a shootout, or would he get his points more in like a garbage time situation?
I think he gets his points in both situations. I just think he's an integral part of that offense, that he's not going to be phased out. They don't really have a backup running back that they utilize where it's like a clear change of pace running back. Like Dowdle has been kind of like that in that backup role, but he doesn't get enough touches to really impact Pollard. I think
he should get more touches, honestly.
Pollard is going to be on the field. I think being in that matchup, it's a must-win game. Like, he's going to get involved in that offense. Like, I just don't see how you bench Pollard on this, like, in this matchup.
I think we have to keep tabs on it. Hill's got the receipts. We'll see how Tony Pollard fares up against Miami. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell on that one. Wide receiver wise, moving on to wide receivers, Adam Thielen versus Packers, sitting him. I know I mentioned earlier when I said Chuba Herbert as the start. I think Adam, has been slowed down the past couple of weeks, and I don't think he gets that type of production against the Packers. Even though the Packers secondary, haven't been great in the past 1 or 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But, you're still going up against Jari Alexandra, one of the big-time corners in the league. You're Adam Thielen, who's, 34 years old. You're way past your prime. Bryce Young in a struggling offense. Yeah, I'm sitting Adam Thielen this week. I already mentioned Dalton Schultz is my tight end sit. And then defensive-wise, maybe keep the receipts on this one too, Hill. I'm sitting Dallas's defense this week.
It's not a bad sit.
I think I sit him last week too, if I'm not mistaken.
You did.
I'm gonna do it for Dose. So number 2 in a row. Dallas is going to struggle against Miami, especially if Tyreek Hill is playing like he normally does, which I hope he does, because he's, basically my whole entire fantasy team. That's how I got to where I am now. Hey, Hill's a smart man. He even sits his own team's defense.
This is the one time that he's not biased.
It's the one time he's not biased. But yeah, you got to sit Dallas's defense, even though they've been the number one defense in fantasy this year, if I'm not mistaken. All thanks to Bland, who has 7 pick sixes. So yeah.
So I'm going to put something in perspective. I'm going back to the Pollard matchup. Pollard is 4th in receptions for all running backs in the league. So he only trails Kamara, McCaffrey, and Breece Hall.
Where is he of the season? Like amongst all running backs?
Total?
Yeah.
Total points? Give me 1 second,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Total points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11.
11.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but to me, I didn't draft him. I didn't have the chance to draft him, but he was a top 5 running back projected this year. I mean, when he top 5 last year? When he top 5 last year?
He was top 5 last year, yeah. But
yeah,
here's the thing between last year and this year. He was a change of pace back. He was in his natural role last year. He's not a 3-down back that they tried to convert him into. Like Zeke was efficient in that offense for what he did. Pollard is not that back. And that's not a knock against Pollard. I think he's a very good and electric back, but he's not that 3-down back. He's that I'm going to come in and I'm going to spell you and I'm going to give you just highlight plays. Like that's what he was last year. Like he was going off, coming in and spelling Zeke. He's not in his natural role right now. He needs a complimentary running back with him to be able to take some of that load off of his shoulders, and he doesn't have that right now. But to still be 11th best out of all of the running backs in the league, I think that's exactly where I was expecting him to be. I didn't expect him to be top 5. He wasn't in my top 5 running backs to draft.
Right. Well, like I said, that I don't like the matchup. We're just gonna have to keep tabs on it, bro. Like that's all I got to say.
And honestly, he's higher than some of the running backs that I had in the top 5. Like
who?
So starting out the season, he is higher than Bijan. He's higher than Saquon. Jonathan.
I would have had him over
not
Saquon.
Jonathan Taylor, of course. Trying to think who else was on that list. I had him kind of in that Jacobs range. He's higher than Jacobs. Like he is exactly where I thought that he was going to be. Like he was in that late 2 to 3rd round range for me, and I think some people were drafting him almost as early as the 1st, like the late 1st, early 2nd, and I just didn't see him falling in that range for me.
Yeah, I do think this year a lot of people overrated the running back just a tad bit. A lot of running backs went in the 1st and 2nd round, just back to back to back. And, that's how I landed in one of my leagues, Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, because everybody was just picking running backs. Although Jefferson got hurt, so it kind of blew me out. But Tony Pollard, I guess you got him correct. He's a bust for me because I had him in my top 5, so but like I said, there's no crying in fantasy. You can't cry about it, so sit Tony Pollard,
Don't sit Tony Pollard. We'll revisit this next week. Don't sit Tony Pollard. I'm standing by that.
You're like the angel on the shoulder. I'm like the devil on the shoulder.
Yeah,
sit Tony Pollard. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for us this week. Best of luck to everybody trying to get to the championship in your semifinals matchup. best of luck to you. You still got 2 more to go. I still got 2 more to go. So hopefully we're talking about 2 championships on the line next week.
And I think we should give ourselves credit if we do make it to the championship, because you're talking to, champ contenders here. That just show you how prestige we are.
My percentage is low, so I'm not even going to claim that.
I have one fantasy championship in my entire career.
Wow. Okay.
Just one. At least I have one, just like the Saints, just one. So.
All right. Well, like we said, best of luck on your matchup. And if our advice does not work out, just remember that there's no crying in fantasy.
No crying in fantasy. Peace out.
Peace out.